with the T.I. situation, if he did that, you're a fucking rat too. I don't spare no motherfucking body.
For years, T.I. and Boosie Badazz were Southern rap royalty, bound by respect, loyalty, and hustle. But somewhere along the line, Brotherhood turned to betrayal. Interviews became battlegrounds, and pride drew blood. In this video, we will break down what really shattered their bond. Brothers in the South. Before the feud, there was mutual admiration. T.I., the self-proclaimed king of the South, had built an empire through his articulate lyricism, chart dominance, and entrepreneurial ventures. Boosie Badazz, raw, unfiltered, and fiercely independent, was the voice of Baton Rouge's streets. Though they came from different worlds within Southern hip-hop, both men represented resilience, struggle, and survival.
You gonna hold how vocal he is. I've been around this. You gonna hold that in all them damn time? All this damn time for 20-something years, you gonna hold that in?
Their relationship began with mutual respect. Interviews from the early 2010s showed Boosie praising T.I.'s hustle, while T.I. publicly supported Boosie during his incarceration. When Boosie was released from prison in 2014, T.I. was among the first industry veterans to welcome him home. The two even teased potential collaborations, sparking excitement among fans who saw them as the embodiment of Southern unity. Their connection went beyond music. It was about shared values. Both rappers came from environments where trust was earned, not given. They understood the cost of fame, the price of loyalty, and the scrutiny that came with being role models in hip-hop. Interviews during this time showed them echoing similar sentiments about realness, authenticity, and staying true to one's roots. But fame, ego, and pride have a way of changing the dynamic between powerful figures. As both rappers expanded their empires, T.I. into Hollywood and activism, Boosie into entrepreneurship and outspoken commentary, their paths began to diverge. What started as a partnership between equals would soon shift into a rivalry defined by words, interpretations, and headlines. The first sign of tension wasn't explosive, it was subtle. A few offhand comments, a few misinterpreted interviews, and a growing perception that both men were standing on opposite sides of the same legacy. The South's brotherhood was beginning to fracture, and neither of them realized just how far it would go. The breaking point. The tension between Boosie Badazz and T.I. didn't erupt overnight. It simmered. For years, the two had maintained a relationship rooted in mutual respect, but the tide began to shift around 2023. In interviews and online clips, subtle comments began to surface, each one hinting at an underlying resentment. What truly fractured the friendship, however, was Boosie's reaction to a story T.I. shared about cooperating with law enforcement in a long-past legal case.
When I saw that, I think T.I. fucking lying. I think he went up there and just got the fucking talking.
When T.I. recounted an old incident where he allegedly mentioned a deceased cousin in a police statement to avoid charges, Boosie didn't hold back his disappointment. In a Vlad TV interview, Boosie publicly declared that he couldn't work with T.I. anymore if the story was true, saying it went against his principles about street loyalty. The media seized on the fallout instantly. Headlines framed it as a full-blown feud, and social media platforms erupted with debates over who was right. Fans were divided. Some sided with Boosie's unwavering stance on street ethics, while others defended T.I.'s honesty and transparency. T.I., never one to back down, responded publicly. He criticized Boosie for speaking before getting the facts straight and later revealed that the entire story about his cousin was a joke taken out of context. He even invited Boosie to review the paperwork to prove his point. Boosie later admitted he might have reacted too fast but insisted that the principle still stood. What was once a close bond had now turned into a cold war of pride and misunderstanding. Their public spat became one of hip-hop's most talked-about dramas of the year, with fans wondering if the two legends would ever reconcile. Behind the cameras, though, something deeper was happening. Both men were being forced to reflect on loyalty, ego, and the consequences of going public with private matters. The line between friendship and pride had been crossed. Public fallout and fan division. Once the tension between Boosie and T.I. spilled into the public eye, the fallout was instant and fierce. Social media became a battlefield. Fans, bloggers, and hip-hop commentators dissected every word from interviews, podcasts, and posts, turning a personal disagreement into a national debate about loyalty and authenticity. Twitter threads stretched for days, and YouTube channels posted hour-long analyses trying to determine who was right: Boosie, the unflinching enforcer of street code, or T.I., the veteran artist claiming his truth was twisted.
I feel like the time that we had, like, allotted for it, we kind of passed by it, you know what I mean? It was like ready. We got the records.
Right.
So much that goes into releasing a record besides just releasing the record. And I feel like, you know what I'm saying, we kind of missed the window.
T.I. went on the defensive, insisting that his story had been misunderstood. In a fiery Instagram live session, he challenged Boosie to check his paperwork and even accused him of being misled by the internet. His tone was one of frustration, not just toward Boosie, but toward the culture of quick judgment that seemed to thrive in hip-hop. "You supposed to be my dog," T.I. said, "and instead of calling me, you went to Vlad." It was a statement that hit hard, a reminder that public perception often destroys private friendships. Boosie, however, stood firm. In his own interviews, he explained that his reaction came from principle, not malice. To him, street credibility wasn't something to play with, even hypothetically. He admitted that T.I.'s explanation might have cleared the air, but the damage was already done. "Once you say something like that," Boosie remarked, "you can't unsay it. It's out there forever." The hip-hop community split down the middle. Some saw Boosie's loyalty to street ethics as admirable, a rare trait in an era where reputation often bends to convenience. Others believed T.I. was right to speak openly about his past, and that Boosie's quick judgment revealed insecurity. As the debate raged, both rappers' fans took sides, flooding comment sections and timelines with defense and outrage. What began as a misunderstanding had become a cultural moment, revealing the fragile intersection between friendship, pride, and reputation. The world was watching, and neither Boosie nor T.I. seemed ready to back down. But the attempt at reconciliation. After weeks of tension and viral headlines, the question looming over fans was simple. Could Boosie and T.I. ever make peace? Both men had a long history of mutual respect and collaboration, and their fallout felt more like a family feud than a standard rap beef. Behind the scenes, several industry figures, including mutual friends and Atlanta OGs, reportedly tried to bring the two together, urging them to settle their differences privately before the public narrative swallowed them both.
T.I., he's saying this happened early in his career.
Right.
Like, when all this was going around with the shit, what they said he on the
When he got busted with the guns.
with the the video when he was doing it for the video, man, the Crime Stopper shit.
Oh, yeah. No, well, yeah. Well, like I said, he got busted with a bunch of guns, and he ended up getting a deal which involved him doing Crime Stopper commercials.
T.I., ever the strategist, hinted at reconciliation first. In a February interview, he noted that real men handle things face-to-face, not on social media. Many interpreted this as an olive branch, a quiet call for dialogue. Shortly after, he claimed that Boosie's comments were misguided, but not unforgivable. He added that if his longtime friend wanted to talk, his door was open. Fans hoped it was the start of a truce. Boosie, however, was slower to respond. Known for his fiery personality, he explained that while he didn't hold a grudge, he wasn't going to rush into reconciliation just to please the public. "I ain't fake," he told a radio host. "If we ever talk, it'll be because we both mean it, not because the internet want a show." His stance reflected the code he'd lived by for decades. Respect had to be earned, not demanded. When both men eventually crossed paths at a music event in Atlanta, tensions were high. Cameras captured the moment they exchanged a brief handshake, but their expressions told a deeper story, one of unease mixed with nostalgia. Insiders said they spoke briefly afterward, agreeing to let things cool down before revisiting their friendship. That quiet meeting didn't mark a full reconciliation, but it was the first real step toward healing. It proved that despite the public chaos, both artists valued their bond more than the noise surrounding them. Whether they would ever return to the brotherhood they once shared was uncertain, but in hip-hop, even a single handshake can mean more than 1,000 words. The culture reacts and media spin. The feud between Boosie and T.I. didn't just divide fans, it became a case study in how hip-hop culture consumes and amplifies drama. Once word spread about their fallout, blogs, YouTube channels, and social media accounts exploded with speculation. Every clip, tweet, and interview snippet was dissected, re-edited, and repackaged for viral consumption. What had started as a personal disagreement turned into a public spectacle that seemed impossible to control. Boosie's raw, unfiltered honesty fed into this machine. His interviews drew millions of views because people knew he would speak without restraint. "I don't bite my tongue," he reminded his audience. And true to his word, he addressed the beef multiple times, often framing it as a matter of principle. To him, it wasn't just about T.I. It was about maintaining authenticity in a culture that often rewards deception. Each time Boosie spoke, the internet caught fire, creating an endless feedback loop of reaction videos and debate panels. Meanwhile, T.I. took a different approach. Instead of fueling the controversy, he began subtly reclaiming control of the narrative. Through podcasts and carefully crafted posts, he urged fans to stop glorifying division. "We've got bigger problems than who said what," he remarked. His composure contrasted sharply with Boosie's passionate delivery, and that difference only deepened the divide among fans. Some praised Boosie for keeping it real, while others applauded T.I. for rising above. Music journalists and cultural commentators couldn't resist weighing in. Some argued that their beef represented the clash between two generations of Southern rap: Boosie, the street poet who never left his roots, and T.I., the businessman who evolved beyond the trap. Others saw it as a cautionary tale about fame, loyalty, and ego in the age of instant media. By the time the noise began to fade, the damage was already done. The internet had turned a brotherhood into a storyline, a friendship into fuel for clicks. Both men would move on with their lives and careers, but the culture had learned a harsh lesson. In the digital era, even authenticity can be weaponized for entertainment. Behind closed doors, what fans didn't see away from cameras and microphones, a very different version of the Boosie and T.I. A feud was unfolding. While fans and blogs painted their fallout as irreparable, insiders revealed that both men were far less hostile in private than the internet believed. In truth, their conflict had more to do with pride and public image than deep-seated hatred. Both were veterans of a culture that thrived on bravado, and both understood how perception could shape legacy.
Okay, so is that album coming out?
No.
Oh. So you have a finished album with T.I. that's not coming out
No, because it ruined everything.
because of that.
Sources close to T.I. claimed that after the controversy broke, he made several attempts to reach Boosie directly. Calls went unanswered at first. Boosie was angry, not only at what he'd heard, but at how quickly their issue became public. "If we were brothers," he reportedly told a mutual friend, "he should have come to me before the world." That line summed up Boosie's frustration. The breach of trust, not the words themselves, cut the deepest. T.I., meanwhile, was dealing with his own inner conflict. The self-proclaimed king of the South had built his reputation on composure, intelligence, and influence. To be embroiled in a public spat with another Southern legend felt beneath him. He told those close to him that he didn't want to respond out of anger, not because he feared Boosie, but because he understood how the media thrived on feeding chaos. "Once you let the streets talk for you," he said, "you lose control of the truth." As tensions cooled, both men began to reflect. They'd come from the same struggle, built their empires from the same foundation of grit and survival. Deep down, they knew their feud served no purpose other than distracting from their real legacies: longevity, influence, and fatherhood. Privately, they started to exchange messages again. No cameras, no headlines, just two men acknowledging that sometimes pride screams louder than reason. It wasn't reconciliation yet, but it was the beginning of understanding, a quiet recognition that what united them had always been stronger than what divided them. Lessons from the South. The Boosie and T.I. saga was more than a celebrity feud. It was a reflection of Southern hip-hop's complex legacy. The South had always been about more than beats and bravado. It was a culture born from struggle, loyalty, and survival. When two of its most respected figures clashed, it exposed not only personal differences, but the tension between old-school authenticity and modern image management.
It ruined everything. I woke up with my motherfucking phone, everything full. Like Boosie, you cannot do an album. Boosie, my real fans like Boosie, you the last one left.
Boosie represented the unfiltered soul of the South. To his fans, he was the voice of the streets, raw, loyal, and brutally honest. Every word he spoke carried the weight of lived experience. He wasn't interested in PR or polished statements. He believed truth should sting if it's real. His fans loved him for that. They saw in Boosie the reflection of their own battles, the man who never folded, no matter the cost. T.I., on the other hand, embodied evolution. Once a trap king, he'd grown into a mogul, actor, and activist. His demeanor was sharper, his words more measured, and his brand bigger than music alone. To him, respect came from growth, from rising above the noise and mastering one's destiny. But that very maturity sometimes clashed with Boosie's unfiltered authenticity. Their feud, in essence, was the South arguing with itself. Was loyalty defined by speaking one's truth, no matter the fallout? Or was it about protecting the legacy by moving strategically? Fans took sides, but both men represented valid truths within Southern hip-hop's fabric. Behind the drama, their story held lessons about the evolution of respect in the industry. In a culture where ego often reigns supreme, real leadership requires more than toughness. It demands restraint. The South, once united under the banner of resilience, was reminded that true kings don't just conquer, they reconcile, rebuild, and rise together. By the time the dust began to settle, one truth became clear. Their feud wasn't about who was right, but about who remembered where they came from. And in the end, that shared origin was what still connected them, even when words and pride tried to pull them apart. The turning point. It was only a matter of time before something gave. After months of silence and speculation, the energy between Boosie and T.I. began to shift. What had once been an exchange of sharp words was slowly transforming into quiet reflection. The culture had already digested their feud. Fans moved on to new controversies, leaving both men alone with their thoughts and their pride.
No, bro. Last time we talked, he say we ran the culture. He say, man, we gonna talk about the album. You know what I'm saying? That was the last thing we talked about, but man, it was bad timing, bro. Like, we finna put this shit together.
The change began subtly. During an appearance on Vlad TV, Boosie, usually fiery and unrestrained, surprised everyone. When asked about T.I., he didn't erupt. Instead, his expression softened. "Ain't no hate, man," he said calmly. "I just stand on what I stand on. But Tip's still my dog. We just ain't talked in a minute." Those few words sent shockwaves through social media. For the first time since the fallout, Boosie had opened the door, if only slightly, to reconciliation. T.I. responded days later, not through a statement, but during a live performance in Atlanta. Mid-set, he paused the music and addressed the crowd. "Ain't no man alive that I called my brother who I can't call again. Life too short for pride." The audience erupted. It wasn't an official apology, but it was the first real gesture of peace, delivered not through headlines, but through heart. Behind the scenes, mutual friends began to move quietly, arranging a conversation away from cameras. Both men knew the industry would spin any public meeting into spectacle. What they wanted was something real, not a truce for show, but an understanding between two men who had walked the same hard roads. When they finally met, the tension broke instantly. They talked for hours about loyalty, family, business, and mistakes. By the end, both laughed at how something so small had grown so large. It wasn't just the mending of a friendship, it was the reawakening of mutual respect. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It was human. Two Southern kings, humbled by time, realizing that real strength lies not in feuding, but in forgiveness. Brotherhood reborn. When Boosie and T.I. finally sat down in private, what began as cautious conversation turned into something deeper. Both men carried years of history, from shared stages to studio sessions, from street talk to family dinners. The tension that once separated them dissolved into laughter as they revisited old stories, the kind only brothers could tell. There was no press, no cameras, and no entourage, just two Southern icons facing each other as men, not as brands. Boosie was the first to break the silence that lingered between serious moments. "Man, I ain't gonna lie," he admitted. "I felt disrespected, but I see now it wasn't what it looked like." T.I. nodded, his voice calm but firm. "I get it, bruh. Sometimes pride make us move before we think. But you know I never meant no harm." That honesty, stripped of ego, became the foundation for rebuilding what fame and misunderstanding had nearly destroyed. As the hours passed, they spoke not only about the past, but about the future, the possibility of collaboration, of using their platforms to inspire the next generation of Southern rappers.
That's how good this motherfucker is. You know, me and Tip hard to get up to. Bro, smoke, bro, his talent, bro, but you know, like, he hurt me with that one, bro. You know, like,
Both understood how rare their bond was in an industry that thrived on rivalry. Reconciliation wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. Two legends proving that accountability and growth were possible, even in hip-hop's cutthroat world. In the weeks that followed, fans began to notice subtle signs of unity. A shared post here, a supportive comment there. Boosie appeared at one of T.I.'s community events in Atlanta, and T.I. publicly praised Boosie's independence in an interview. The hip-hop community, once divided, now celebrated their reunion as a win for the culture. Their renewed bond reminded everyone that authenticity and forgiveness can coexist. Brotherhood, once fractured, was reborn. Not through forced gestures, but through truth. And as their story spread, it carried a powerful message. Real kings may clash, but they never stay enemies forever. Legacy beyond the beef. When the dust finally settled, what remained between Boosie and T.I. was more than reconciliation. It was transformation. Theirs had been one of the most talked about riffs in hip-hop, a clash that tested loyalty, ego, and legacy. But by choosing peace over pride, they had rewritten their own narrative. Instead of being remembered for division, they would be remembered for evolution. Two men who faced conflict and grew from it. In the months that followed their reunion, both artists began to redirect their focus. T.I. leaned further into mentorship, using his podcast and public appearances to discuss the importance of maturity in the rap game. "Everybody wanna be real," he said in one episode, "but being real means handling your business without letting the world use your pain for profit." His words resonated not only with fans but with younger artists navigating the same traps of fame and pride. Boosie, meanwhile, remained as outspoken as ever, but with a sharper sense of purpose. His interviews carried the same edge, yet his tone revealed growth. "I still speak my mind," he said, "but I learned that you can be solid and still show love. That's real strength." Fans noticed the shift. The man once known for fire now spoke with reflection, the kind that comes only after hard lessons. Together, their renewed respect became a blueprint for hip-hop unity. It reminded the culture that conflict doesn't have to end in destruction, that authenticity isn't about hostility, but honesty. Their story wasn't sanitized or scripted. It was raw, flawed, and entirely human. By the time both men hinted at a potential collaboration, social media erupted with anticipation. The idea of Boosie and T.I. sharing a track again felt symbolic, proof that time, maturity, and brotherhood could overcome even the loudest feuds. Their legacy now stood taller than their disagreements. They had shown that growth doesn't erase who you are, it defines who you become. In the end, their beef didn't break them. It built them into legends with a story worth remembering. Outro. In the world of hip-hop, where pride often outweighs peace, Boosie and T.I. proved that real strength lies in reconciliation. Their journey from brothers to rivals and back again showed that even kings can humble themselves for truth. Their story stands as a reminder: respect endures longer than rivalry ever will.